Hello everybody, this is Little in Hawaii. I finally finished that little pouch I showed you in the boho bits video, and so I'll give you a quick look at it. I sewed the beads on the bottom here, added different trims, 3 rows of trims here as I think I mentioned to you, and then of course I lined it and sewed it up, and I have a snap closure. I used a crinkled silk lining, and what else? And then I have this nice cord. I made a really long cord so it can be worn across the body, so that's completely finished. And I was quite pleased with it, so I thought, oh, I'll just do another one because I have the fabric, and I'll show you first how I use and make this fabric. It all began really from pieces. Well, first of all, I cut pieces of muslin, and then I patched or appliqued. I don't know whether you would call it really patching, and you really wouldn't call it applique, but anyway, I cut different shapes from the muslin, from the cotton I should say, and it's all coordinated because, and this is one of 2 of these that I've done, and then I'll cut it up and make it into items, and I'll show you where I got it from. So it was all coordinated. It was in this tin called a frivole, and it was on sale online, and it consists of, and the French prints, and it has, let's see, how many does it have here? It's by Moda, a frivole by Moda, and it has 42 7 by 7 squares really, and then you get a couple of pieces of tape and a pattern for a quilt if you want to make this quilt, which I didn't, of course. So I used I've used all the pieces that I needed for things like this, and I was able to do 2 of those, and I still have these, and I've used them a lot for brooches and all sorts of things. So and then I can store my scraps in the nice tin called a frivole, French for frivolous. So I think that's really nice to have. And from those pieces I made this little pouch, which is for a camera or something. Didn't put a hanger on it because it just sits on a table, and I left threads hanging because I did some top stitching. That was all after I cut out the pieces like this. So that's a cute little thing, and it's got this diagonal flap. The flap had to be added after I made a little bag, and then I sewed the flap onto the back here. So it's really cool, and it sits nicely. And then because I still had half of this from making this took half of one of those pieces I just showed you, and I still have another half. So what I've done is I've pulled out some things, and I'm going to make another bag, and these are the things I've pulled out so far. So I've got my hand needle all ready, and this is the piece. So this was half of the other piece. This will be the flap. I chose the darker piece for the flap, and then when I make it, it'll be like, sort of like that. And then I'm going to add some funky things. I've got a piece of trim here that has those colors, and this has beads and sequins and stuff. So that's going on, but then I'm going to use some Silk Road antique metal pieces. I have a collection of Silk Road things from Turkey and Afghanistan and those areas, the tribal areas, where they used to use, it was called German silver. And so I'm going to put that there as a dangle in the center, so that's like 2 opposing kinds of looks. And then I've got another little kind of like a little charm, and that also was off one of the chain pieces, so I'm going to put that on there. And the other thing I have, of course, I have this is often how those little tribal pieces come. and I make little dangles out of them. But I've got some bigger pieces too, and actually while I'm talking to you about that, I may as well show you one of my boxes that I made to hold some of them. They're quite heavy, and they're quite old, very old actually, more than 100 years old. And as I say, they're from Afghanistan. These little bells, you may have seen those around, but these are authentic ones. So these are more or less pieces that I'm not opposed to using, but if they're a whole, like a necklace or bracelet, you know, or something, I don't cut it up. Anyway, I'll take this needle out for a minute because it's kind of in the way there, and show you the last thing I would do on this. I have some antique, or vintage really, not antique, beaded trim, and in my mind those beaded dangles are too far apart. So what I thought I would do is I would fold it to where they were offset, and you can see that it makes it much thicker. And then I'm going to put it so not all of the braid shows, but some of the braid shows. The way. So imagine if that's that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Let's see if I can pick it up. So that's kind of going to be the look. So it's very exotic, sort of like an amulet, Asian, yet it's got sequins and beads for the Western touch. So that's going to be the other one of those. So I'll make two of those. So I've made 1, 2. And oh, I also keep some of the bits that have fallen off some of those chains. I keep them in this. So, and some of them are really cute. This one has a little, this one is very cute. This one is like so, and this came from the tribal parts of China actually. And when you let that go and pull it down, it's a little Buddha sitting in a box with this beautiful dangle. So there's the little Buddha there in the box. Oh, so cute. Haven't figured out how to use it. The chain is missing, and some bits from the top are probably missing. Anyway, I keep those bits in here, and I've got these off one of the pieces as well, and I thought these would make great tops for tassels. The only problem with that is the hole in the bottom is very, very small. So I'm not sure how I'm going to arrange that, but that's in my mind for future. Now, the other thing I did was I made some boho tags, and I call them haberdashery. And I made them from some of these items I've just shown you. So I'll just quickly show you those. I put them on this brown cardstock that I had, and I wrote the word haberdashery, and I cut them to those shapes. I have assorted sizes. I made templates and I just use them over and over again. And these can be included in pockets of books or whatever you like. And actually, yeah, that's another one. So those are some ideas, just there, some of the ways I use some of these fragments. And the only other thing I've got to show you is when I do have pieces of some of these fabrics left, and I don't know what on earth I'm going to do with them, so I'll often put them together and just put some silk and some velvet, a little batik and so forth, and I just sew them however willy-nilly, and then one day I'll get a brainstorm and I'll figure out what to do with them. This could almost be enough for a wrap cuff, and this could also. So I don't like to waste these exotic fabrics that generally are silk and generally are more expensive and perhaps harder to find. And some of them I find look very nice with these ethnic things. For example, that would look, that's one of those ethnic pieces, look nice on that. And I also have a few things I got in Egypt once when I was there. And so this is kind of like a scarab, if you know what that is. So the scarab would look nice. When it has these patches like this, it's nice to put something sometimes in the middle of it, just to give it relief. What else would go on there? So here I have another scarab. It's a big one, made of turquoise or faience. And this was an interesting piece, and I'll have to figure out what to do. It used to be worn on the finger, I understand. Goodness. Anyway, they're fun to play with, and sometimes I like to put them on these kinds of pouches. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.